Even at the beginning, the Arabs didn't have things all their own way, but they did succeed in crushing the myth of Israel's invincibility, and the first Israeli surrenders were moments of rare triumph for the Egyptian commanders. Before the attack, many Israelis had thought the Bar-Lev line was an impregnable defense. In fact, its basic function is to act as a tripwire and delay an attack until mobilization has been completed. Under the kind of assault mounted by the Egyptians, it was bound to give way. What many people found difficult to understand was why the Israeli leadership had not mobilized in advance. Israel's defense minister, Moshe Dayan, explained.
In this case, we considered it, and it was the decision of the government not to strike first, even though we were sure that they will do that, in order to have that political or whatever you call it advantage at the expenses of the military disadvantages. And I think it was the right decision. In this case, today, not like 6 years ago, in '67, today, not to strike first, not to start with a preventive strike, because we are not in the position that we were before.
Essentially, General Dayan's point was that the occupied lands acted as a buffer zone between Israeli territory and the Arab armies, and thus gave Israel much greater security than 6 years ago. But in the first few days of the war, Israeli civilians discovered this theory wasn't as comforting as it sounded. The peace of settlements deep inside northern Israel was suddenly shattered by Syrian rockets. 10 people were injured and 200 made homeless when 2 missiles with half-ton warheads exploded in the center of this village. School buildings and dormitories were wrecked, and casualties would have been much higher had the children not been spending the night in underground shelters. The Israelis were quick to respond to the rocket attacks. The next day, Phantom jets struck at the Syrian capital of Damascus, the first time an Arab capital has been bombed in a Middle East war. As the jets roared in, SAM missiles rose to meet them, and Syria later claimed to have shot down 4 of the attacking planes. Like nearly every other claim in this war, it wasn't possible to verify, though one Israeli pilot was seen parachuting to Earth. Whatever the truth about air losses, what couldn't be denied was the considerable damage the raid caused in Damascus itself. The targets were the Syrian Defense Ministry and the Air Force headquarters, which Israel claimed were legitimate military objectives. But the bombs also demolished the Russian Cultural Center and several houses in a fashionable residential district.